Donovan Edwards. What is with this guy? So he's a 5-star coming out of high school. He gets some work behind Hassan Haskins and shows some good things in 2021, including as a pass receiver, which has been a consistent part of his game. In 2022, of course, he plays second fiddle to Blake Corum very capably and then explodes at the end of the year when he's the man. And then he becomes this enigma for most of 2023.
Yeah.
And then at the conclusion of 2023, he once again becomes this dominant runner who rings up these ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, it's that it was something we talked about all fall, was when is Donovan Edwards going to break through? It's going to happen. It's got to happen. When is it going to happen? And it didn't until the national championship game. And I think that this offseason as being the guy is going to be huge for him development wise. I mean, we've seen the talent. You've talked about it. I mean, the way he's exploded at the end of the last 2 seasons. And so I think it could be wrong, but I think he's probably going to be one of the top 5, top 10 backs in the country next year, because he's going to have the production. Michigan's going to want to run the ball, especially with him. And so Edwards, I think, is going to take that step forward and really fill that starting role to the degree that we think he's capable of. And with Tony Alford now, that you feel, if you're, watching Michigan and seeing the way that Alford's developed running backs during his tenure at Ohio State, that Edwards will take that step with him. Moving on from Mike Hart, I think they really loved Mike Hart. So that's too bad that, he left, but Alford's a great hire. So, you fill that place with a guy who's just as capable of a coach, maybe better. And so I do think Edwards takes that next step. And I think also a fresh set of eyes on his playing style and his game will be good for him.
So Nelson, looking at the rest of the running backs, and we've seen these guys in spots, in spurts, CJ Stokes, Khalil Mullings, and others, Benjamin Hall, who's back and who has shown you the most in limited work?
Yeah. So we'll start with Mullings. Well, I'll give you the rundown of who's back. Mullings is back. Benjamin Hall is back. Cole Cabana, who is more of a shifty speed guy, could see him spelling Edwards in the passing game a little bit more. He can line up out wide. And then you're bringing 3, or I guess you have 2 true freshmen, and then Tavier Dunlap, who redshirted. So Jordan Marshall is a very highly rated running back, battled between that 1 and 2 spot nationally this last year. He's from Cincinnati, a very, very consistent runner. Didn't catch as much out of the backfield until maybe the last couple weeks of the season. But Micah Capana, more of a guy who's same as Cole Cabana is, a little bit of a shiftier, quicker guy, catches more balls. So I don't expect to see him. I think Marshall has a shot to get some carries, but the 2 guys I'm looking at, and CJ Stokes, by the way, moved on. He's transferring. And so Khalil Mullings is going to be, I think, that guy right there with Donovan Edwards, power back. And then Benjamin Hall. Those are the 2 guys. And Hall is a very similar style runner to Mullings, big bruising guy, bounces off of tacklers. Hall looked really good in the spring game last year. We thought he might break through for some snaps this past season. He did a little bit, but nothing consistent. And Mullings, we saw in the Rose Bowl and even against Washington a little bit, catching passes. So they seem comfortable, very comfortable with Mullings as their number 2. I think that was a sign of it, because he's getting out and, doing things in the offense that we haven't seen from him. It was a lot of just up the middle, inside zone, power play, whatever, that's all he was taking was powers and inside zone basically. And then you saw him go out against Alabama in the Rose Bowl and catch a pass on the sideline, toe tapping, So I think they're comfortable with him. He's also great in pass pro, which will be huge because Blake Corum was so good at that. And Edwards is not as good. Not bad, but Mullings is going to be that guy who I think gets a lot of the second snaps. But Ben Hall's development will be key this spring to see if he steals some from either of those 2.
Breaking down the Michigan offense with Nelson Hubble. He's here from Maize and Blue Review. Of course, that is the place to be to check out Michigan football each and every day. Right there with Nelson. We appreciate Nelson stopping by, breaking down the Maize and Blue for us.